This video is connected with the last video in which we were discussing the preliminary setups for advanced warehouse management implementation in Dynamics 365 supply chain management. So let's recap for what we discussed in the last video. We discussed about the story dimension groups. I'll be tagging this video with this one as well. For now, let's have a quick recap. Then we have discussed about the tracking dimension groups, which are used to track the inventory within warehouse. You can use three tracking dimensions, which is the serial number, and then the batch number, and then ownership. And next we have discussed about the unit sequence group in the warehouse operation. Today, let's discuss about the inventory statuses. Inventory status is basically you will be going to the warehouse management and then the setup, and then in the inventory tab you will find the inventory statuses tab. Inventory status dimension can be used to divide items into categories such as available and blocking. You can create unlimited number of statuses. Additionally, you can set the default for the inventory status to apply for all items, for items in one warehouse or to one customer or the vendor. So using this screen, you can create multiple statuses, and using this last column, you can set that whether this is available or not, or this is a blocking status. So for defaulting and the status on any of the site, warehouse, vendor, or the item, that must be a not block status. That should be a good status. Next, today next item to discuss for the preliminary advanced warehouse setup is the item groups tab. So item groups are also used to group the items together that all share the similar posting profile. By configuring the item groups, this way you don't have to set up a posting profile for every item you have in the application. The information within the item group is used for several transactions in the system. For example, when a transaction occurs, the item group is assigned to that item within the transaction will be used to determine which ledger accounts the transactions will be posted to. In the item groups, you might need to set up use of filters. Filters which are used to further describe an item can also be used to limit items for vendors and customers, and can be made a required setup for the product. Filters. These filters, we are talking about warehouse filters. Filters allow users to categorize items, limit customers to items, and then limit vendors to items. For example, you should use filters if there is a requirement to only sell items that have a specific filter on it. 4 filter codes are available in supply chain management. Make sure you predefine the values for each filter code, and consider renaming the filter codes from the generic use 1 to 3 code labels to match your business use. The filters are turned on and off on the item groups page. So from here you can activate filters on any of the specific related groups. Say we are working on the audio item group, and from here we can activate these filters. The filters which are required on the product, and filters which can be defaulted from the item group. The use filter code option indicates that you will be using the filter code for the item, and that you will be manually setting that filter code on the release product page. So these 10 filters which are available here, if I'm assigning these 10 any of these use values, say I'm saying that I will be using this 1, 2, and 3. Then while creating the release product, the system will ask me about these 3 codes on the release item product page. You can also set up default filter groups which will automatically default. Next is the dock management profile. The dock management profile helps you control inventory items for multiple orders, shipments, loads, or waves at the dock when inbound items are received or outbound items are loaded. The location profile also specifies whether a warehouse location is license plate controlled, can be cycle counted, and whether it allows for mixing of inventory batches. You can set up the dock management profile and assign it to location profile to manage the mixing of inventory items in specific warehouse locations. For example, when you stage product into a staging location, perhaps you only want one order to be staged in each staging line, or to segregate items by shipment, load ID, order number, wave ID, and the work order type. So by going on to warehouse management again, and in the warehouse management, you have doc management profiles. Here you define that whether on using these stock management profiles, you will be specifying which inventory types that should not be mixed. So based on this criteria, we can limit, we can control which inventory profiles to be mixed and which are not mixable. So let's say here we have shipment ID, load ID, order number, wave ID, or the work order type. So if I am going to choose the work order type, it means that either it will be a production order, sales order, or the purchase order. Based on the wave ID, I'll be sharing that my single wave will be kept as a separate, will not be mixed. Based on the load, it means that I'll be on the staging from the staging to dock. I will not be mixing my load IDs. Using the shipment ID, it means that I will not be mixing my shipment IDs, and using the order number, I'm saying that my single order will not be mixed with any other order. So you can configure it here, and by specifying the values here, what next to do using the profile management, location profile management, we can associate these doc management profiles to or profiles. You say if we are going to use the bay door, and on bay door we are specifying that is a large customer base, and we are not mixing our orders over there, so that limit can be activated using the doc management and assigning that doc management to my related profile ID. Next item is to configure the warehouse layout. Dynamics 365 offers a very flexible way to configure the warehouse layout. In order to use warehouse management in supply chain management, you must create a warehouse and enable it for more advanced or specialized warehouse management activities. You can use either the storage dimension groups to do that, or you will be going directly to the warehouse and you will be enabling advanced warehouse features on that. So here on the warehouse management tab, on the warehouse creation form, sorry about that, in the warehouse effect box, you will be enabling this use warehouse management parameters for processes for enabling it to be used for the advanced warehouse management. So here, let's say on this warehouse 24, we have enabled this use warehouse management processes. And next thing you will be doing, you will be using the same advanced level storage dimension group for this specific warehouse. Let's go to the product information management. Over here in the storage dimension groups, we have covered this in the last session. Let's say this warehouse is enabled. This storage dimension can be used with the advanced warehouse implementations. Like we do have a use warehouse management processes activated on my this storage group. So the products which are associated with this product group and are being processed on the related warehouse, which is 24, will be enabled for advanced warehouse management. After enabling the warehouse management processes, you can complete the additional setups for general parameters like number, sequence, locations, work, and so on. The warehouse zone is defined as the area in a warehouse to which you allocate specific inventory items. It is a collection of different locations. As part of the process for enabling warehouse layout, you must define the following. Like you must define the zone groups. Zone group is a logical or physical grouping of zones within a warehouse. Then zones are logical or physical grouping of locations within a warehouse. Then we have location profiles, a logical or physical grouping of locations that have same warehouse location process policies. For example, a mix of different item numbers can be stored there and same physical capacity constraints apply. Additionally, location profiles also allow you to mix the product dimensions in one location. This functionality can help you use locations better by allowing you to decide configurations, colors, styles, and sizes that can be mixed on a certain location profile. Additionally, you can specify specific combinations of those dimensions that can be mixed in a location profile, in a location. Then we have the location types, so logical or the physical grouping of warehouse locations. For example, you can create a location type for all the staging locations. Mandatory settings are on the warehouse management parameters. You must specify at least 3 location types, uh, which will be specified on the warehouse management parameters form. Then the lowest and the last level is the location itself. The lowest level of the location information. Locations are used to track where the on-hand inventory is stored and picked in the warehouse. The entities that you create to define your warehouse layout are used in the queries that you set up in the work template to drive work orders in the warehouse. Therefore, when you define the zones, location types, and so on, consider how different areas in the warehouse are used for different processes. Additionally, consider factors such as physical characteristics of an area. For example, there might be the areas where you can only use a certain type of forklift. Another example might be if your company has both production and finished goods within the same facility and you want to create single warehouse in the supply chain management, but then we can use the zone groups to separate the two operations by creating two zone groups. Give your entities descriptive name. It's a simple trick for all whatever you are doing in the dynamics or whatever system you are using. Give your entities a descriptive name that so that it's easy to identify them when you use them in the template or the queries, or even if some third person will go there and read the IDs. The IDs should be enough descriptive that he can get what is showing. Like if we are using a zone group for a zone for the dry goods, then it must be mentioned that it is for dry goods. Let's discuss each and everything in a much more detail. Let's start from the zone and zone groups. So by going on to the warehouse management, we have zones. Let me pull some generic warehouse layout here. And from there, I think it will be easy for you guys to understand the warehouse management. Say on here we have the storage area, here we have the staging area, here we have the shipping area, and here we have the packing area. So we can group, we can create multiple zones within that group. Say this is my dry goods zone here, and then here say I have the fresh stock here, and then here say I have something like the frozen items, and here say I have some uh, like again the temperature control items. So I'll be specifying my zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and so on. These will be my zones within any my warehouse. And here say we will be using the bay door, and this will be my bay door zone group, and the location will be a bulk type. And here my bay door for the frozen items or for the dry goods, and here my bay door for it is my inbound area. So in the inbound I can specify that this is my receiving area for my warehouse. So in while configuring the zones, I will be configuring the zones, zone for receiving here, then the zone for outbound, the dry goods, and then zone for outbound, the frozen items. So based on my warehouse layout, I will be configuring my layout within Dynamics, considering the zone groups, location profiles, location types, locations itself, and then there will be the nomenclature for my locations, which is location format. So let's discuss about the warehouse zone groups. I can create groups within my Dynamics 365. So here you can see the bulk group is there, the floor group is there, the floor rack group is there, the return area group where my sales returns will be coming, and my web shop where my uh, web shop items will be covered. Next, we have the zones. If you have visited some like cash and carry or some other departmental store, you see that this area is for electronics, this area is for like households, this area is for groceries, and this area is for vegetables, and these are the consumables, these are that, and so on. So consider that as an example. We'll be using those specified areas, physical or logical areas, to create our zones. Zones allows you to categorize or group locations into a zone, which can be useful for allocating products based on a zone area. The zone group is a logical grouping of different warehouse zones. Both zones and zone groups are created for reporting purposes. So we don't have anything like we will be categorizing this in our on-hand inventory. We will not be able to check even on-hand inventory based on the zones, but these are for the reporting purposes. Then after creating zone and warehouse zones, so these are basically optional things, but these are for the reporting purposes. If you need to categorize the warehouse layout in more descriptive form, so then you will be using zones and zone groups. Then we have location format. So this is, as told you earlier, that this is my nomenclature for the location formats. My locations within my warehouse will be based on these formats. So say here, let me create a new one. Say I will be creating ARSB, which means ARSB say 4, which means I will be tracking oil, rack, shelf, and bin. Here I will be specifying, let's say, let me share you another picture here. So here, say we have within my warehouse, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 oils. So normally in the warehouses, in the large facilities, we have more than 10 oils, but normally we have 1 to up to 10, up to 9 oils, and within those oils we have racks, and within those racks we have shelves, and within those shelves we have bin locations associated with that. So say here we have oil 1, then my location will be oil 1, rack 1, and then within that rack shelf A, B, or C, and within that shelf we have bins placed within that warehouse. So see here, I am specifying oil indicator, which is in length is 1. So I'll be specifying simple separator, which I'm saying as which I'm setting up as the indicator. So this will be my this indicator will be my indicator that this value is for my oil. So let's say my first thing is oil, and then oil number, which is again 1. I can use, say my warehouse has is limited to 9 oils. So by specifying 1, I'm addressing that within my warehouse there are up to 9 oils. Then I have rack indicator, which is again 1, and I have rack number. So again, by providing one, I can go up to 9 racks within my warehouse. So then I have shelf data, which is again one, shelf number, which is say within each rack I have up to 9 shelves. Uh, so that means again I will be specifying here the one. Then for the bins area, let me show you bin indicator, which is one, and then I have bin number here, which is going up to 2, which means that within each shelf I have up to 99 bins. I can create up to 99 bins within my each shelf. So by saving this, I'll be using this later in the when I will be creating my location profile. For now, we have configured and saved this one. Next, let's go to location profiles. Let's create a new one here. Say I will be using test location, for demo. So here I'll be specifying a format here. Let's say I'll be using my ARS4, and then I'll be specifying my location type. Sorry if I haven't elaborated this. It is basically a descriptive column which I'll be using for my setups. Location types are used to define the locations that your warehouse will be using. After adding a description to your locations, you can use the location types to filter the locations to only see those that you want to use for item picking or putting away process. So by going on to, let's go and create some location types. So here we have a generic list of locations. We can create as many as we want to, and we will be using those location types for to filter the locations for working on the picking and putting away processes. So here let's create a test location, test type, which means my test location type. I'm specifying that over here, my test type. Let's save this. So we have created a location profile ID, which means a test location. We have created the location format for that. We have created the location. We have associated the location type, based on which we can filter out this. Next one, the location profile is the basically the most critical setup for any warehouse, for managing warehouse. So all my locations will be controlled based on my location profile IDs. So all the controls we are specifying over here. Say the location profile is where all the setups that you have completed plus for are applied to the profile, which is then assigned to every location in your warehouse. In addition, several other rules apply to the location if the license plate is can be used. If it is license plate track location, then you must allow that by using this toggle. If you allow the negative inventory based on this location profile type, so you will be allowing the negative inventories here. If the cycle count is allowed on this location, so you will be allowing cycle counting here. If you have not allowed any license tweaking here, or you are not allowing the negative inventories, or you are not allowing the mixed items, or you are not allowing the inventory mixed statuses, then you will not be able to process those related. You will not be able to process the license plates over there over this location. You will not be able to process the negative inventories on this location. You will not be able to process the mixed statuses on this location. All those things are used here and will be applied using this location profile ID. For example, you can define the location dimensions such as height, length, width, and so on for the common unit of measure such as pallet or boxes, or you can set the sizes by location volume. Therefore, if you have an area with different sized racks or shelves, you will need to create different location profiles. So that is the basic point. If you have an area with different sized racks or shelves, you will need to create different location profiles for that. So here we have dimensions of the location, which will be by all profile locations which falls within the same dimensions. I'll be assigning those to my location profile ID. So here I'll be specifying based on any unit. Say it is my pallet or the box or whichever fits for the storing purposes. Let's say I'll be using here PL. PL means my pallet unit, and here my actual width, actual height, width, depth, and my weight, and here my usable locations. So these basically these will be used in conjunction with the items. If I have configured the item dimensions using the height, weight, width, and the volume or the depth, then those items will be tracked with these dimensions, and then the quantity will be controlled. Additionally, allowed product dimension mixing FastTab enables location managing when using product variants or the product with dimensions. It allows you to decide whether configuration, color, style, and size can be mixed on a certain location profile, or if only one or the combination of some of those dimensions can be put on the same location. So if I allow the mixed items, if I allow the cycle counting, if I use to allow the negative inventory, I'll be using the let's say split tracking for this location. I will be allowing the mixed items, I will be allowing the inventory statuses, I will be allowing the inventory batches, I will be allowing this to open for the cycle counting. Let's save this for now. Next setup is for my locations. So within Dynamics 365, we have two ways to create the locations. First one is the location by default. So here, if I want to create the location, I will be simply going. We can approach this by using the Office add-in. Otherwise, we can go to directly create new one. So I'll be specifying my warehouse. I'll be specifying, say, my big location. And then I'll be specifying my location profile ID. This is mandatory setup one. Let's say the big 6, and then if I don't want to use the zone, then I can skip that. Otherwise, I can specify my big zone. This location is placed within my big zone 1. And based on this zone ID, it is easy to locate the location. And next, on the location setup, if my location is blocked for the inbound, like the purchase receipts or the inbound receipts, I can specify my region codes, which is cost. And by specifying the region code, I will be simply adding this inventory inbound block due to maintenance, and inventory outbound is also blocked for this location due to maintenance. So this location is not available for being used for any warehouse management process, because it is blocked for the input and it is blocked for the The next thing is to use the location setup wizard. So let's create a create locations using the wizard. So here we will be specifying our warehouse. Then what I can specify my zone. Say it is zone 1, and next is say my profile ID is say the test location type. So here what I will be specifying is that my indicator is static text for this is A, static text for this is R, my static text for this is shelf, and then I'll be specifying my bins. So here say I'll be creating oil from 10 to 13. Sorry, from 2 to 4, and then my regs will be, sorry about that, that must be set up. The next row here, say I'll get into 2 to 4, and then my each oil will have up to 4 regs. So my regs will be from 5 to 9, and then my shells will be from is again 1. So I'll be creating my 5 to 9 shelves, and then my bins will be from 30 to 350, 320. By processing this, 20 bins will be created from 5 to 9 means for each oil number will be starting from the 2 to 4. So 2 oils will be created, and then 4 racks will be created within each oil that will be numbered in accordance with the specified number 5 to 9, and then my 4 shells will be created on each rack that will be specified from 5 to 9, and my bins will be created that will be specified from 301 300 to 320, around 20 bins. Let's just create. Let's create from 19 to 30 here. Let's create it. Save. My 500 locations have been created, which is filter out here. Filter my zone, my warehouse 24, and then filter my zone ID is zone 1. In these much locations, my IL2 rank 5. You can look into this. It means that this location is placed at the A2 IL2, and my rack number is 5, my shelf number is 5, and my bin is 19. And then my oil is 2, then the rack location is again 5, and on the same rack I have the 5th shelf, and on the 5th shelf I have bin 20. So by this way you will be tracking even the exact bin locations, but normally we are not using this because we use the simply the locations which are provided to us by the client, because they are already familiar with the warehousing and they are already using the locations themselves. We have these much locations created by Dynamics within seconds. Next is the location stocking limits. So based on the location dimensions and the location profile dimensions, we can configure the location stocking limits by going on to the warehouse management, setup area, and location stocking limits. So here we can specify my warehouse. I can specify my location. I can either specify my location or my location profile ID. I can specify my item, and then I can specify whether it is unlimited quantity or I can limit that based on say if I select the unlimited, which it means that my vendor will the stocking limits will not be applied to my those profile IDs. Say for the floor type, I'll be specifying my I have not specified my number, but I'm specifying the unit. So that is, it means that for the floor type profiles, I can hold up to 2 pallets within any my floor type location or my specified warehouse. So same settings I can specify for the product variants, again for the warehouse, and then I will be specifying the floor type, and then I will be specifying my dimension number. The variant item number is 13, the size is M, and I will be specifying that I can hold up to 300 quantity of this specific item on this specific location profile of this specific warehouse. So by implementing this, it means that the warehouse will not go beyond this digit on any of my this location type on that specified warehouse. If I am going to receive 301 quantity on any of the related profile of the same warehouse of this item, that system will not allow me to do so. Stocking limits require you to enter either a specific location or the location profile ID. So here I can either specify my location profile ID or I can specify my location, but not both. Multiple items with stocking limits can be at the same location, and one item can also have limits at multiple locations. So say if my same item is for the, say if I specify here one more line, I will add 34, and I will say the floor, and my item is same 0013, size is say M, and here I can specify that my this warehouse and the floor type locations within that warehouse can hold up to 500 items, 500 unit of items. So you can also specify stocking limits for products, product variants, and container types. Supply chain management does not allow more than the specified quantity of an item at the specified location by putting the quantity limit on that. Location stocking limits help guarantee that request isn't made to have inventory placed in a location that does not have a physical capacity to carry the inventory. To quickly create the locations within the warehouse, we can use the location setup wizard. We have used that as part of the process. You can maintain the format of the location. So location status functionality in supply chain management has fields on the location page that will let you have more flexibility when working with and maintaining the locations. The location status can be included in the location directives query to help with better warehouse flow controls. Thank you for watching. So today we have covered the basic setups for the warehouse layout. Earlier we have covered the preliminary setups for the advanced warehousing. Next we will be covering the more advanced things, which means we will be covering the configure cache weight processing for warehouse management, and we will be trying to configure the next topic is the warehouse processes, which means we will be covering the wave templates, we will be covering the work templates, we will be discussing on the work tools, we will be discussing on the location directives, etc. So till now we have covered the basic setups for advanced warehouse management, and next we will be going towards the more advanced things. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Thank you.